I'm delighted to be joined by Leon McKenzie. I was going to say fresh, but not too long after a disappointing night at your call against Cello Renda, subsequently in which you announced your retirement from boxing. I don't know really where to start with you, Leon, but let's just talk.
You're not usually quiet, are you?
No, I know. When I was talking to you earlier, I was kind of just listening to you and seeing, you know, your thoughts about, you know, how Saturday went. But, you know, looking back on it now, I know it's only been a few days, but, you know, what went wrong for you?
Time, I think, really, more than anything. Time caught up with me. I'm 40 next year. We noticed it a little bit in the Smile fight. I didn't have my snap. And I said to my dad after, Dad, I said, it's starting to take effect. I think we're close, you know. But we're going to keep having a go. I'm a true professional. I do everything properly. So that wasn't, you know, there wasn't any, So still carry on. Yeah, so there wasn't any real issues with training or anything. I just think that with the fight, the Cello fight just gone, it was literally just 40 years old creeping up behind me and just not letting me go, and it was me accepting that, really. In round 9, he had a barrage of punches that wasn't necessarily hurting me as such. It wasn't one full big blow that hurt me to put me down. It was more of an exhaustion, my body just bailing and saying, I can't go on. Being that I was probably up in the fight. I was up sort of 2-3 rounds with 1 round to go. When it's time, it's time, and that's all I can really put it down to. Cello, tough guy, well-travelled, experienced. That played dividend in the end at the back end of the fight to my 11 fights that I've had in my whole career. He's a real, you know, he's had a real tough journey himself, and he's rightly so to be champion.
We know the backstory of it. It's been publicised every time more or less you fight. You know, people always making reference to the fact that you were a Premier League footballer, and always making that kind of comparison. And you've had that throughout your 11 fights, and people talking about you in the future will always kind of use that as a reference. But
will they know after this last fight? I mean, will they now? I'd like to think I'd leave the sport with even the opponents that I fought. If you asked every opponent that I fought, they'd say Leon can fight. And that is the reality of what we're, you know, the industry we're in. Anyone outside that watched that fight on Saturday, would they really be looking at me as like, oh, Leon, the Premiership footballer, former footballer? I don't know. You'd have to ask them. But I can assure you that that fight on Saturday, both men went into the ring as warriors and both left as warriors. Obviously, one left with a belt, and I left, obviously, having to retire. But that's just me being honest with myself and true to my body and my family, and just, which probably not a lot of boxers do in this day and age, is when it's time, it's time. And sometimes we have to be true to ourselves and let go of it. And that's exactly what I did, probably in round 9, just let go.
I mean, what I was going to say was, despite the fact that people make that reference of, you know, what you used to do, I think we've seen enough of Leon McKenzie and seen what kind of fighter you are to get the full credit as a professional boxer, and that it wasn't just kind of, you know, like a gimmick thing you were doing. It was something that you took very seriously. You've got boxing running through your family. Yeah. So I think, you know, in the 11 fights we saw you, I think we saw a better than decent account of that. Is that fair to say?
I'd like to hope so. I saw, you know, to leave the sport with having gained that respect and my family legacy name sort of continuing. I showed a lot of heart in that last fight, and my heart's always been there, but it took a Cello Renda to bring it out even more. But it takes two people like that to make a fight. It's not just solely through me. Cello Renda is a very tough guy. So it's all about moving forward now and trying to get on with life.
Prior to the fight, was there any sort of idea in the back of your head that if Saturday didn't go, that Saturday in particular didn't go how you envisaged it to go, that it may be time for you to call it a day? Or wasn't you thinking about that before the fight?
I always think about if and when. So I knew that I'd only put it down to that way I felt. Sorry. So it was more down to I said to my dad that I'm gonna say how I feel, like whether we got the belt or whether we didn't. Like it had to come down to how I felt in that particular fight. And what was happening is from the Smile fight to now this one later on in the fight was it's just the recovery. My body, like, so if I had like a very good stage in the fight, I'm not recovering quick enough, and that's what I noticed as certain fights went on. So I knew that we was nearly at that time to probably like call it a day. I knew. So you can only take each fight as they come. So we knew that this next fight could be my last fight, with a belt or without. It really made no difference.
When you look back at your boxing career and those 11 fights you had, I'm not assuming you're one of these people that will look back with any sort of regret on anything you do in your life. But can you be content with what you achieved in boxing?
I think so. I think the only way someone cannot be content with what they want to pursue in life is if they don't ever try. You find out a lot about yourself when you put yourself into a position where you actually try and go for everything you believe in. And whether you fail coming out of the other side, you're not necessarily failing. You're always going to be a winner because you've tried in the first place. It's the ones that don't try who never really understand the journey and never really try to make something of their life. I've had 2 careers. Maybe the second one a little bit shorter than the first, but the point is that boxing is a serious sport, and you only have to look at what goes on within the sport. Even the way, I collapsed in round 9, with my family and my mum and my daughter and my son and everyone just kind of falling to pieces after the fight. That's another emotional kind of thing that I didn't realise as well until after. So, it can be quite scary at the same time. But my fears, my knowing, like I did the best. I did win a professional belt, although it wasn't a Southern or something higher. I very came close to winning an English title, a debatable whether I won or not, but come away with a loss. I'm very happy to come away from the sport knowing at 39 years old, I'm challenging fighters in the industry who've been doing it all their life. I've never had any fights. Yes, it's in my DNA and it's in my blood, but really and truly, at 39, 40 years old, really shouldn't be being able to compete with someone that's been fighting all their life. That's the reality, and I was. So.
Leon, moving forward for you, we know you've been very open about, personal problems you've had throughout your life, some of which was documented in your book, and you've been putting out the message for mental illness awareness for such a long time now. I mean, moving forward I know you will pursue that and continue spreading that message about that, but as in regards to the boxing as well, is it something that you'd like to stay in? Yeah,
I'd like to stay in boxing more to incorporate more things that need to be done within the industry. Now, within boxing itself, there is nothing for boxers who retire, actually boxers who are going through their careers but never have any kind of plan as such. Not everyone makes it into the big money side of things, and you have loads of boxers who have to work, still go out and train and everything else, and still try and have a career. Now there's got to be something put in place where us as a unity, as an industry, get together and try and figure something out in regards with when boxers do finish. We got there's so many lost boxers that probably won't actually say anything, which is quite a serious issue, and so many that will just leave the sport and just like not know what to do. There's so many things that we can provide. Even if, like, you see how our boxer has to provide a medical every year. Like, surely, like, let's make it, you know, compulsory that someone has to put money, every boxer has to put, like, money into a certain pot or something, just as they have to pay for medicals. Maybe there can be, like, counselling or something after their careers where they've got, like, some form of counselling, because I believe there's a psychological trauma after boxing, and also just having like the support. There's no support network who offer boxers that help, and I think it's very serious. So that is one of my aims, to try and change that.
Leon, we've seen in many instances retired fighters kind of not knowing what to do after their career has ended, because the truth of the matter is you're hot while you're fighting and you're winning to a certain degree, and when you've retired, depending on kind of what sort of stamp you've left on the game, some boxers are quickly forgotten about, and you know, you see them at shows and you think, oh, I remember him when he used to fight, but that's not really paying their bills at the time, or, you know, giving them sort of security after boxing.
Listen, I'm not saying that every boxer's got to have like some sort of handout to therefore pay the bills for the rest of their life. You know, life has to sometimes go on, and circumstances change everything. But what I am saying is, whether it's the boxing board and another unity coming together, there's got to be more help with where boxers can go to somewhere, even if it's to have conversations, to speak about, you know, their career that they had, or to get guidance, to get help with, to get planning, to maybe start education, maybe start a new chapter in their own lives, because that's how important life is after boxing. When you do this, I've done this all my life, like been an athlete all my life. So when you do that, you become accustomed to a certain way of life. And when that stops, that's why you see like people that go into the army, because they become accustomed and that have like a routine in their life. And when that routine stops, all of a sudden, you start to have psychological problems. Now, to provide counselling maybe would be I think a number one thing, first and foremost, just to be able to provide that, and have like a network of where boxers can go to, where boxers can chat, where boxers can emotionally let their, you know, thoughts out, just from a speaking point of view. And that way, because when that particular boxer does speak, they're able to maybe get help from another person, that maybe get help from that person, and all of a sudden you start getting the right help in the right areas. And that's excluding money, because it always comes down to money. We don't have the money, we can't do this and we can't do that. Obviously football is very different, because you have a professional football association which provide education, you know, provide money, they provide all these things. There must be a way where we can start providing things for boxers that retire and boxers that are going through their career, knowing that, you know, there is things that are provided.
Do you have any advice for Mr. Curtis Woodhouse, who recently made a comeback, former British champion? Should he, shouldn't he? Down to him. How do you feel about that?
Well, you know what? I can't speak for Curtis, and he only knows his body and his mind. What I will say is for myself, I knew the last couple of fights that my body is bailing on me. Obviously, I'm a little bit older than Curtis, and I didn't achieve what he achieved in boxing from that point of view. But what I will say is only he knows when it's time. And if it's his choice to come back and do what he wants to do, then so be it. For whatever reasons, only he knows. I can't answer that for him. But what I do know from me and myself I'm fine. Boxing, you know, I did what I did, but the training, the fighting, I know it's time. And you have to know that sometimes as a boxer. You have to know when it's time.
I don't want to turn this into an Oscar speech, but is there anyone else or anyone in general you'd like to sort of thank or say anything about?
He's like, so who am I supposed to thank right now?
I don't know, your family, I don't know.
Okay, listen, what I will do is obviously, I'd like to thank my dad because he's been by my side first and foremost as my best friend, my trainer, and listened to me and knew that he knew in that last fight that, yeah, it's time. And he said to me after, it's time. And I had to listen to my dad because I respect, you know, this is a 15-round fighter that has been through everything I've gone through in the short term. I'd just like to thank boxing in general for accepting me as a fighter. You know, letting the football thing sort of go and then watching me and understanding my journey, understanding what I've had to do to even get to the levels that I fought at the age of 39. And being accepted in the boxing industry, it was a big thing for me to be able to leave the boxing industry and have that respect and say, wow, Leon Warrior, got a lot of heart. That means a lot to me. So thank you to the boxing industry.
Okay, Leon. Well, listen, thank you very much for your time today. Happy retirement. And like I said, wherever it's a place in whatever capacity you do, we know you do it well because you've been successful and you've overcome many things in your life. So there's no doubt about that.
Thanks, Kuz. You're just showing a bit of heart there, mate. You know.
I've got heart. I've got heart.
The same with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn tweeted me as well. Like, he never tweeted me.
Can't mention Eddie Hearn on the BoxNation channel.
Oh, you can't? Okay. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, just a certain person tweeted me. Hasn't tweeted me in like 4 years while I've been fighting. And then obviously I finished. And he was like, you know, Warrior, like, well done. So that was quite interesting. But anyway, we'll change the subject.
No, it's all good, it's all good. All right, Leon, well, listen, thank you very much for your time. And listen, no doubt we'll catch up with you in the near future.
Cheers, mate. Nice one. Thanks a lot.